3/100ths of a second slower than Mika Häkkinen's fastest time last year. A great achievement. David Coulthard now, we're looking at him going round. Oops, there he goes again. And he dives inside the Minardi of Marc Genet, who's now been lapped by Michael Schumacher, by Mika Häkkinen, by Eddie Irvine and David Coulthard. Just two retirements. Luca Badoer is out of the race in the Minardi. Damon Hill is out of the race in the Jordan. 20 of the 22 starters are still running. The last of them is Pedro de la Rosa in the Arrows. Michael Schumacher comes through to complete his 18th lap. 60 to go. Tora Takagi in the Arrows moves over, lets him through. Sander Vogt, brake hard, 55 miles an hour, accelerate hard up to 160 miles an hour. In that short distance for Massenet.
Yes, there was a lot of fuss after Imola about people not obeying the blue flags and people shouting loud and clear. And I have to say, so far, the drivers have been exemplary. Maybe that's had the desired effect. But it's Irvine who's on the move at the moment. He's now just 2.6 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen, beginning to put him under some pressure.
The blue flags, incidentally, one of the many different coloured flags that can be used by the marshals, and they're pretty good here. And the blue flag means there is someone behind you trying to get past. Let him through. Now, obviously, if you're fighting for track position, you're not going to do that. But in the case of the San Marino Grand Prix 2 weeks ago, Olivier Panis was a lap behind Michael Schumacher as the German came up to lap him, and he refused to yield, and Michael Schumacher reckoned that cost him a lot of time. He still won the race, of course, the San Marino Grand Prix, with David Coulthard in second position. Mika Häkkinen there, out of the event when he crashed. And Mika Häkkinen is now coming up behind Ralf Schumacher in the Williams, down in 18th position. Not at all a happy race for Williams at the present moment, because Schumacher is in 18th position. His teammate, Zanardi, is only in 16th place.
Yes, we haven't seen it on screen, but Zanardi's clearly made a mistake. I suspect he's gone up the escape road at Sander Vogt or something, because he's still in the race, and normally if you make a mistake around here, you're in the wall for good. But Sander Vogt you can just get away with. Zanardi way back down in 16th, having run 10th in the early stages.
Don't want to put him down, Martin, but you have to say that Zanardi has not lived up to the promise that everybody thought he'd got.
He's not come to terms with his cars at all, I think, although he's looked stronger around here. And just to rub salt in the wounds, Montoya, the Formula 3000 champion, has gone over to the States and is showing them the way around very, very early on. So Alex will be hurting a bit at the moment. I saw him in the hotel after Brazil, actually, and it's difficult to know what to say to him. You just say, well, keep your head down, it'll come right in the end.
Hello, Alex, probably. Well, this is lap 20, which is just over 1/4 distance. And Eddie Irvine, third in the Ferrari there, comes up to the Rascasse, having lapped Ralf Schumacher, who was going very well at one point in the Williams, and then he had problems yesterday and qualified well down.
Yes, I think Häkkinen's going to have Irvine bearing down on him. Häkkinen's picked up his pace a bit on this lap, but I think Häkkinen could well have Irvine coming at him in the not too distant future.
Michael Schumacher leads Mika Häkkinen on lap 21 with the fastest lap already by nearly 14 seconds. Eddie Irvine is 2.2 seconds behind Häkkinen, and you can see that now on the picture, and he has been gaining.
Well, Mary, you wouldn't have put your post office account on a Williams being lapped at quarter distance in Monaco a couple of years back, would you?
No, I most certainly wouldn't. I remember the ignominy of Jacques Villeneuve when he was lapped in 1996, and he was very new to street racing of this kind, and these cars, of course, are very, very nervous, very nimble compared with the heavier, steadier Indy cars, kart racing in America, and I think Zanardi is having the same sort of problem in mastering that, as down to the chicane comes second place Mika Häkkinen, who is in third equal position in the World Championship, sharing that position with Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and Frentzen is currently in sixth place on 1 World Championship point. I had dinner with Eddie Jordan the other day, and I asked him to make a prophecy about what would happen here. He said row 2 or row 3 for qualifying, and he was right there because Heinz-Harald Frentzen started 6th, which is row 3, and he also said at least one podium. I've got it written on a piece of paper in front of me as I talk to you. It doesn't look like it at the present moment. So, lap 22, time for a break.
Back at Monaco now. We'll recap the top 6 for you. Here they come. After 23 laps, Michael Schumacher, brilliant drive so far. Häkkinen still in touch, though. Irvine third, Coulthard, Barrichello, Frentzen. So those top places unchanged. Now, Jonesy, it's settled down, but this is going to be an amazing first pit stop. I mean, the strategy here is going to be brilliant.
Well, you've just answered it, Daz. I mean, it's like a lot of the Formula One races we've seen lately. It's a little bit processional now. But I think in another 15, 18, 20 laps time, it'll get very, very interesting.
Well, he's really got to come out in front of this pit stop, because if Häkkinen comes out and takes the lead, he's going to be very difficult to pass.
Yeah, like impossible.
Let's go back to Murray Walker and Martin Brundle.
Drift. Both Frentzen and Trulli been driving exceptionally well all through the weekend, especially Frentzen. Trulli going in the pits. That's very early. That's very, very early to be doing now.
This is only lap 23. As I said earlier on, I wasn't really expecting anybody, as last year, to come in before lap 31. Let's see if it's a routine stop. Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, the mechanic cleaning the visor. He couldn't possibly be on a 2-stop strategy.
Well, he certainly is now, I would have thought. No point in carrying a great big fuel load like that to the end of the race. They've got it back to front. But I guess if it's a 75-lap race, 78-lap race, 3 lots of 25 or 26 laps is fine, but 23 seems very early. Unless they've decided that because he was getting held up, because he was stuck behind Frentzen, they try and give him some free space on the racetrack and move him up that way.
The interesting thing is he's only lost, this is Schumacher still leading by over 15 seconds. The interesting thing is with that quick stop, Jarno Trulli only lost 1 place. Jacques Villeneuve got ahead into 8th position, but Trulli got out of the pits just before 10th place man Alex Wurz in the Benetton came through. Now, with the 2-stop strategy, of course, you are making the race in effect 3 flat-out sprints. You can't relax for a second.
Well, whatever strategy you're on, you can't relax. You can't afford to give away anything, really, and that is a big problem if you run a heavy fuel load at the beginning. It's very easy for the driver to take a mindset of, well, you know, let's just take this easy while the car's fat and heavy and the car feels a bit clumsy, relatively speaking. And you saw Irvine just 1.8 seconds now behind the second-place McLaren of Mika Häkkinen, who is 15.3 seconds behind race leader Michael Schumacher.
And Eddie Irvine is lapping half a second a lap quicker. Doesn't sound much, but multiply that by a few laps and he'll be with the McLaren if they both maintain the same speeds that they're doing now. And I'm reminded that last year, Eddie Irvine collided with Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who was then driving for the Williams team. They had a coming together at the Lowe's hairpin, the Grand Hotel hairpin these days. And there is the McLaren. There is the 3rd place Ferrari going round the Rascasse corner. Now, the gap between Häkkinen 2nd and Irvine 3rd was 1.8 seconds. Let's see if Eddie Irvine has closed it at all. Yes, he has, by 1/10 of a second. Not much, but there's still a lot of laps left. This is lap 26. It's a 78-lap race. And there in the background is Coulthard as James Allen has more news.
Well, Murray, the Eddie Irvine-Häkkinen situation isn't the only scrap in prospect. There's also a very interesting one going on between Rubens Barrichello and Heinz-Harald Frentzen for 5th place. That gap's been alternating around the 2.5 to 2.9 second bracket. But what's interesting in that battle is that the stewards, unfortunately, have quite a small fuel tank on the board. So Barrichello is going to be obliged to stop before Frentzen. I spoke to some of the Jordan people before the race, and they said, yeah, we're just going to sit nice and close to him behind. And when Barrichello comes in, we're just going to pick up a place. Heart-wrenching for Barrichello, but great news for Jordan.
David Coulthard 4th, coming up behind. Ralf Schumacher 18th in the Williams to lap him. And that'll give Eddie Irvine the opportunity to close right up on the McLaren. And that's one of the Minardis. And he's gone out just after Saint Devant. They've already got the crane ready. And that's the reason. Slam bang. It is Marc Genet who has been really out of his depth on this circuit for the whole weekend.
Yes, he has. He must have doubled Monaco's budget for Armco barrier, because he's been having a nibble at it just about everywhere he had the opportunity. So Genet really, having made a reasonable start in Formula 1 in Melbourne, really now beginning to struggle. And it does get harder and harder. The pressure, the testing, the press, the expectation, and it's the kind of slope you often see with new young drivers.
Well, Michael Schumacher, smooth, that's where he went off, just a bit further back a couple of years ago on the very first lap. Not this one, though. He's nearly over 15 seconds ahead.
Last 2 laps, David Coulthard's been the fastest driver on the track and beginning to home in on Irvine, who's homing in on Hakkinen, as you already know. So clearly Coulthard getting more and more comfortable with his car too. And they're all a little bit faster than race leader Michael Schumacher,
who is on his 27th lap. Look at that, left, right at the swimming pool, now right, left, doing 100 miles an hour. Quite incredible, the reflexes of these drivers and the way the cars are set up. This is the Rascasse, that's the corner where he takes it very tight indeed when he comes into the pits. We don't know when that's going to be. It's not going to be very long before they start coming in, though.
Well, Rubens Barrichello in 5th place, Murray. Now we're not watching him at the moment, but he's been doing a great job all season, hasn't he, let alone all weekend here. And Johnny Herbert back in 11th place and moving along quite quickly. He's catching Burts for 10th. So the 2 Stewart Fords going well. And really, those top 6 drivers, Michael Schumacher, Hakkinen, Irvine, Coulthard, Barrichello, Frentzen, have been the class of the field.
And Eddie Irvine again takes another 10th out of David Coulthard. 1.6 seconds now between the Ferrari and the McLaren, 3rd and 2nd.
Yeah, I think you find that's Hakkinen. He's taken another 10th out of, but they're all on virtually identical times. So pretty good scrap building up here, Murray.
Yep. There is just 20 seconds now covering the top 4 on lap 28 as we look at Eddie Irvine. There is Coulthard, Hakkinen ahead of him, Coulthard behind him, and the De La Rosa in the arrows running wide. He's in 19th and last position. Just 3 retirements at the present moment. Damon Hill, who went out with that collision with Schumacher. Luca Badoer, who went out in the Minardi. Marc Genet, we've just seen retiring. So a terrible day for the Minardi team. And they do try so hard. And they are such nice people. They really deserve to do better. And there are 19 competitors left. And the Prost team are waiting to bring somebody in. We've already had Jarno Trulli in on 1 pit stop, and that wasn't long ago, so it must be Olivier Panis, who is in 15th position.
Michael Schumacher's responded as you see Panis coming into his garage of mechanics, and Schumacher's responded with a new fastest lap of the race that matches the lap record around here, actually not quite by 0.02 of a second, on a 1:22.950 as Panis rejoins the racetrack. A very quick stop, not too much fuel to put in. The fuel consumption around this circuit is very low because of the low average speed. But here we go, he's got to stay inside that yellow line if he can. It's always difficult here because the pit straight, as we've said many times before, bends quite severely to the right, and that's exactly where the pit lane feeds in. And here's 2nd, 3rd and 4th, all in the same shot at the hairpin.
And Mika Hakkinen has gone fastest of all in the 1st sector. He is speeding up as the fuel load comes down, and that can argue that he's on a heavy fuel load and will be stopping later than Michael Schumacher. So the German leading by just over 15 seconds, and Mika Hakkinen continues his increased speed. He's gone faster in the 2nd sector.
Well, Michael Schumacher coming up to lap Johnny Herbert, and James Allen spotted down in the pits that Michael's apparent slowing of pace really was because of traffic. He went through Villeneuve, Trulli and Burts and that lot, and that explains why he's appeared to be off the pace and why he's now putting another sprint in. Of course, his pursuers have got to go through that lot yet.
Yeah, Johnny Herbert very courteously and considerately moved out of the way. He saw the shape of the Ferrari And there are a lot of people who are saying that the yellow, intimidating colour of that Ferrari attracts people's attention when they see it coming up in the red Ferrari, when they see it come up rather than the silver of the McLarens. Perhaps a far-fetched theory, but it's a bit of fun.
There might be something in it. Senna with his red and white car and his bright yellow helmet used to be an intimidating force, but it was more because he'd drive over you sooner than drive round you.